Our opening statement will be given by Glenn Freeman, followed by Brett Lindstrom, followed by Lee Terry, and then Jack Heidel.
Is it? Okay, is it on? Yeah. My name is Glenn Freeman. I'm running for Congress, the 2nd District. I'm a retired Chief Master Sergeant. I was former chairman of the Douglas County Republican Party, and I worked for Senator Chuck Hagel for 12 years. I'm running for this office because of the lack of leadership in Congress presently. I am of the belief that out of all of the issues that we have, the one main problem is a lack of support by Congress, the Constitution. That's what we need, and that's what I'll bring to the office.
You want to switch? Let's switch. Oh. This will be a little bit easier. There we go. Well, my name is Brett Lindstrom. I am obviously running for Congress as well. I am a lifelong Nebraskan. I was born and raised in Nebraska. I was born in Lincoln, raised in Omaha. Grew up in the Millard School District, went to and attended Millard West High School. After high school, I had the opportunity to walk on and follow in my father and 2 uncles' footsteps and play football down at the University of Nebraska, where I lettered. And then following that, I earned my degree in history, got married. I've been married for about 4 years. My wife and I have a daughter of 10 months. I've been in the financial services industry for a better part of a decade. And really, that's why I got in this race. I deal with a lot of and work with a lot of folks like you, people who are either in retirement or about to retire. And like I said, being a new dad, I'm fearful of her future and the future of this country. And frankly, I think that politicians have not been good stewards of our money, our taxpayer money, over the last several years. And that's why I got in this race, to make a difference and to serve. I view it as an honor and a privilege to serve you, and I appreciate your vote on May 15th.
I am Jack Heidel. I'm a mathematician. And when I tell that to people, I add that I can add and subtract. And apparently there's a lot of people in Washington who can't add and subtract because they're not doing it. So anyway, I'm a mathematician. I am the chair of the UNO Mathematics Department, where I've been for many years. I'm also an elected member of the Learning Community Coordinating Council from a district in central Omaha. I'm running for Congress because I am appalled by trillion-dollar deficits going on 4 years in a row now. And of course, it started before that. They've been building up for many years, and it's simply unacceptable. It's irresponsible, and our national leaders are not getting the job done. So we need new leadership. I'm running all over Douglas and parts of Sarpy County with, this is my spiel. I'm Jack Heidel. I'm running for Congress in the Republican primary. My platform is to eliminate the deficit. We roll our eyes at each other because, you know, everybody understands how hard that is.
Sorry, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Lee Terry, and I've been the one, Mr. Heidel, can I? Oh, thank you. The one that was in the trenches fighting against Obamacare, the one that's voted 3 times to repeal it, the one that fought the president on his failed stimulus package that extended our recession. I'm the one that is worried about our future because of the massive spending occurring in Washington, D.C. and the deficit spending. And what you probably don't know are the hundreds of votes that I've taken to reduce the spending. And if we could have got those measures through, Harry Reid, we would have saved $7 trillion over the next 10 years. I'm the one that's fighting for an energy policy that makes us energy secure, that included the Keystone Pipeline. The reality is, in Washington, D.C., you need experience, you need people that have been in the trenches and done the work, and that's why I want your support.
Let's hold our applause. The next question, we'll start with Brett Lindstrom, please. If Obamacare is declared unconstitutional, what is your plan to replace it?
Well, certainly we need to have a patient-centered approach, a patient-doctor relationship. Currently, right now, we have insurance companies that are bypassing individuals and paying directly to the hospitals, which is in turn making the costs go up. One of the things is prescription drugs. Europe pays 1/10 of our prescription drugs. Canada pays 1/6. What we're doing is a lot of these pharmaceutical companies have patents of 12 years. They're changing it by just a little bit, and then they sell it overseas, and we buy it back. So certainly, we need to fix that, get back to the patient-centered approach, having portability in our medical care. If you have a job, you like that particular plan that you have, you should be able to take that to your next job. Interstate exchange program, I believe that's a viable option. So I think there's several different options, but of course I think that Obamacare probably will get repealed. I hope it does. If not, I will work to repeal it. That would be one of the first things. I think one of the questions earlier was one of the first 3 things you would do. That would be one of them. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Whether or not Obamacare is repealed, or to what extent it's repealed by the Supreme Court, the problem, there's a much better way of doing health care. The problem with Obamacare is that there's no cost control, and we need to get cost control into healthcare in general. I'm talking about overall healthcare, and not just Medicare and Medicaid. We need cost control in healthcare in general, and private healthcare, which is, of course, is most of our healthcare. And I think the way to do that is to change the way healthcare remove the tax exemption from healthcare. In other words, employer-provided healthcare is tax-free. It's to the employee, and that needs to change because there's no cost control. There's no incentive for the employees. The company keeps track of the cost, the insurance companies and the employer, but not the employee. And so we need incentives for the employees to keep track of healthcare costs. And so let's repeal remove the tax exemption, have an offsetting tax credit to balance it out.
I'm afraid your time is up.
Well, certainly one of the things we need to do is keep it in the private sector. Having government control of all of our health care decisions is just a dangerous approach. There was one cost-saving measure that was in there, and we've tried to repeal that because it's called a rationing board. It's the Independent Patients Advisory Board that's put in place to tell people that would be in these programs what they could be covered and what couldn't be covered. If we trust the private sector and the competition that's in there, we will help drive prices down. I think we need to move to an individual-based market where we do have tax credits for the individuals. Then you have portability, you have choice, where you can pick out what plan, just like we do in Congress. You get to pick a plan that matches your situation, your family situation. So choice and portability, tax credit, focusing on individuals and competition.
Ladies and gentlemen, I really want you to pay attention tonight, because what you're hearing are the same things you always hear from Washington. Every 2 years, you hear the same thing. Every 4 years. The government has no business in health care. Absolutely none at all. You will never get a health care plan that is fair for everyone. You've got to get the government out of it. There's no easy answers. Again, as this goes on, and you hear all of these easy answers. If health care, I want you to think just 1 minute. If the federal government had the answer, why doesn't the government give each and every one of you $1 million and walk away and leave us alone? Don't be fooled, please. I beg you to think. The government has nothing to do with health care any more than they have to choosing your wife, choosing your car. If you let them do this, then you are telling them that they know better for you than you know for yourself and your family.
The The next question is to Mr. Terry. If elected, what would be your top 3 legislative priorities and why?
First of all, we need to get rid of Obamacare, but let's hope the Supreme Court does that so we can focus on right-sizing our economy. First of all, we have to become competitive. To become competitive, we have to stop the deficit spending, start expanding the private sector. Once we keep stealing their money away, let money stay in the private sector, they'll create the jobs for us. Second of all, we need a tax code that recognizes that we're in a global competition for jobs. China's beating the pants off of us right now. We cannot do what this president wants to do and increase taxes on both individuals, capital investments, and corporations. Right now, the average flat tax around the world is around 20%. Many are down to 12%, but we're at 35%. No wonder we're losing our jobs. So we need to go to a flat tax that's fair and simple. Everyone should be paying the same rate. There's no reason a business in Omaha should pay more than GE.
This next question, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, when this country was founded, we had 2 ways of getting taxes. The first way was that the states funded the federal government. The states did. Initially, they started out with the value of the land in the states. Then with the Constitution, we moved to population. Now we move to personal income tax. Personal income tax is unconstitutional. The only fair tax there is, and I urge you to be careful and you listen to these promises from Washington, the only fair tax is a sales tax. If you buy it, you pay it. There's no other fair tax. There's no other way. Buffett can say what he wants to say. I want you to understand one thing. Mr. Buffett has 1 vote. Why should he pay $1 million for the 1 vote when somebody who pays nothing get that? There is no other fair tax other than sales tax.
Well, the 3 big things I'd like to work on your behalf in Washington in legislation. 1 would be to cut spending and rating the debt. Currently, we have $15.6 trillion in climbing. We can make those cuts. For every dollar we take in, we borrow 41 cents of that dollar. The other thing I'd like to cut, I'm sorry, Congressman Terry, would be your pension. That'd be one thing that I'd like to cut. Second would be Social Security. Getting the Social Security Trust Fund out of the general fund so that our politicians can no longer raid those coffers. That's the second thing. Third thing would be to create a tax reform as far as the corporate tax code, reform that. Currently, we have a 35% corporate tax rate. We aren't even competitive globally across the developed countries. It averages about 18.1%. So we have to be competitive globally. The other thing we need to do is get rid of the repatriation taxes so that multinational companies who are sending jobs and money overseas bring that money back and invest in American jobs and our future.
My top 3 legislative priorities are to eliminate the deficit, and eliminate the deficit. Now, how are we going to do that? First of all, we're going to cut spending big time. We have to reform the budget process, cut spending across the board, all departments, take big spending cuts. Okay, that will lower our costs, but now we need to revive the economy as well. And reviving the economy, boosting the economy will increase tax revenue, not raising tax rates, but it will boost tax revenue by the economy expanding. Okay, so how do we do that? We implement broad-based tax reform to make tax rates as low as possible, and with closing loopholes and deductions, absolutely as low as possible, uniform tax rates. That will give the economy a big boost. We also remove burdensome regulations from small business, because small business and entrepreneurs are the ones who create the most jobs, and they are highly overregulated, so we give them a boost by removing and lessening the regulations.
We move on. Mr. Heidel, I believe you're first this time. What do you consider the essential services of the federal government?
Well, fortunately, I heard that question a few minutes ago. Obviously, national defense is the first and most important services provided by the national government. Securing our borders is another very important service. Implementing treaties and trade agreements. In other words, things that we do with other countries have to be done by the federal government. So those are very important. Administering programs, entitlement programs, or welfare programs, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, those have got to come, those are national programs, they have to come through the federal government. So these are the main most important services provided by the federal government.
All right. The order is Mr. Heidel, Mr. Freeman, Mr. Lindstrom, and Mr. Terry.
What was the question again? The question.
What do you consider the essential services of the federal government?
Well, you're speaking for the House of Representatives, and I got lost because we started talking about treaties and they involve the Senate, not the House of Representatives. So since I'm running for the House of Representatives, there are two main functions of the House of Representatives. Number one, all bills for raising revenue originates in the House of Representatives. That's your taxes. The second one is the House of Representatives has the sole power of impeachment. So my comments will be addressed to that. Now, we have some individuals who believe that robocalls and all this other stuff, the pipeline, has something to do with the House of Representatives. It does not. So I would concentrate on taxes, since that's my job. That'd be the function. And as I said before, I want you to clearly understand this. The only way that we're going to straighten this country out is stop sending the money to Washington, because if you send it to them, they're going to waste it.
Well, I think the most essential is, of course, the military. And I can make this short and sweet. The military is the most essential for protecting our citizens and securing our borders from threats abroad. So in my belief is that the military is the number one most important essential thing that the U.S. government provides.
Thank you. Yeah, of course, the number one issue is to protect the people and the citizens of this from foreign invasion. So having a standing military that's ready, that's strong and capable is how we prevent that. There's other ways we need to protect ourselves in this country in a war on terrorism. But if you want to look at what the role of the federal government in the House of Representatives, the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8 lists those out. We can have roads, we can have infrastructure, we have mail, and we have commerce between the states. Those are all important issues that we need to be involved in. We want to make sure that our economy is growing. So we need to have the right set of taxation that allows our private sector to thrive and not be strangled. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll start with your closing statements, and we'll start with Mr. Freeman. Then Mr. Heidel, Mr. Lindstrom, and Mr. Terry.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, I ask you to think about what has been said here. From 1619 to 1865, we had a segment of our society that paid no taxes. They had free clothing, they had free food, they had free housing, they had free medical care. Free. Everything was free. They didn't like that. They didn't like it. And I'm telling you, when the government gives you all of these free things, you won't like it either. Because there's one thing missing, and that's liberty. Liberty. Thank you so very much for coming, and thank you for listening to me. And I ask you to think about what I just told you. God bless America.
I'm running for Congress to eliminate the deficit. And I believe that Mr. Terry is not doing a good job in providing leadership on this issue, and there's absolutely no personal animosity involved here. He's a nice guy, and you know, he's providing constituent service. He has seniority and so on, but he's not providing leadership on our most important problem, eliminating the deficit. And let me just point out a couple of ways why. Mr. Terry voted for the Bush. After all, deficit spending began under President Bush. I mean, it started getting bad. And Mr. Terry supported all of the Bush from 2002 to 2006. He was voting for the Bush deficit budget. So that's a start. Let me go to a more recent thing, which I have to do very, very quickly. Mr. Terry voted for the 2% tax payroll tax holiday last December, the 2-month extension of the 2% payroll tax holiday. That set the die. And even though he voted against the full year extension later on in the spring, he voted for the start of it, the 2-month extension, and that got things going. And that's $100 billion added to the deficit, and it's unacceptable.
Hi, well, I think there's three things that separate me from the gentleman up here. One would be leadership. In my capacity as a financial advisor and leading my clients through some of the tumultuous times. Fiscal responsibility. I know how to balance a budget. I do it every day for my job, working with people and folks just like you. And the third would be motivation. I'm going into this to serve. I view it as an honor and a privilege, and I do not have the intention of making the House a career. Now, I don't know about Glenn, but from what I've read and what I know, I am the 100% true pro-life candidate in this race. In 2012, this will be one of the biggest turning points in American history. I believe that is whether or not we go down the road of Western European socialism, if we go down the path of Greece, of Portugal, Italy, Spain. People need to understand that America is not too big to fail. And I'm asking for your vote on May 15th, and hopefully on November 6th, to vote for me, Brett Lindstrom. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to call us or contact us. If you have any more questions, we didn't cover everything, but there's a lot more to cover. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, our Sarpy County Republican women, for hosting this tonight. This has been a fun evening, and I just want to thank all of my Sarpy County friends here. You've been with me through the several elections, and I really appreciate you. Sarpy County, frankly, in the 08, delivered this race for us, so I appreciate all that you've done. We've got a lot of work to do in Congress, and it's going to need someone that knows how to get things done, and regardless of what we've heard here tonight, experience does matter. And so I would appreciate your vote on May 15th. And let's get out there and work. We can't let Obama win this district again.
There are no more questions. I want to thank you all very much for participating, and let's give them a round of applause.